Ladies and gentlemen, come gather round, come gather round, come gather around. Today, we answer the age-old question, why is your wife's car lower than your car? The smart person would cut a little bit off the coils and make this lower to match. However, I have wider wheels on mine than she has on hers, and they're already cutting and slicing the tires, so I can't go any lower, and I can't have her car lower than mine. So we're gonna fix that. Let's go. My wife and I both have matching his and hers lowered, red, two-door, hatchback Hyundai Accents. They're both lowered the same. They both have one of my custom rear sway bars. They both have widened steelies. However, despite buying the same springs, my wife's is lower than mine. And I'm having like ride height envy here. This is, it's like an 8, it's like 11 and 7/8, okay? And you gotta measure from the center of the hub to the fender edge because that takes the tire height and wheel diameter out of the issue. You could just go by the edge of the rim and that still negates the tire size, but center of the hub is always good. This is 11 7/8. Let's go check mine. And mine's at 12.5 inches. We can't have that. Now, one easy solution that I had was to buy a couple of these. These just fit in between your coil springs, like that, and in essence, they zero or delete one coil on your suspension, which will, because it doesn't compress at static ride height, it should raise the vehicle, and these did in fact raise the car close to 1/2 inch. But the problem that they did is the lowering springs are engineered to be a big enough coil that it's got the right spring rate that you need, but the right installed height that you need. So it's not, the spring doesn't come loose at full droop, but it also can't stack up the coils when it's fully bottomed out. And when this was installed, the coil spring, the rest of the remaining coil springs would stack up, they would bind, and you hear this clank, clank. That kind of a bottoming is going to fatigue the sheet metal in the front of the car, and we can't have that. So this was a failed experiment, but I think I have another solution up my sleeve that will hopefully raise this 4/8, 5/8 of an inch. We'll see. Here we go.
Now I recognize not all of you have a hoist. You can certainly do this with a floor jack on the floor, but the old man in me certainly likes having the hoist. My knees thank me for it. Once the suspension is apart, you normally use a coil spring compressor to squeeze the spring together to undo the top nut, but I'm not. I'm just going to undo it. These are lowering springs, so they're already shorter. Then I got the original coil springs that I took out of the car, and I cut one link out. They're about 12 millimeters thick-ish, so one coil cut off. It's going to look kind of like that. I figure if I weld that on, it will probably space the whole thing up about 12 millimeters, or the thickness of the coil, which at the wheel should be somewhere close to 1 inch. We're going to clean off all the powder coating off of both, so we got nice clean bare metal, and then we're going to MIG weld them together. The engineer in you is probably having a fit and throwing the computer out the window right now. The heating of coil springs turned them from coil spring steel into just mild steel, but it's at the end of the coil spring, and it probably isn't going to make an issue or a difference. I'm heating up the original coil just a little bit to make it match, welding it up fully. Also, the engineer in you is probably having a fit because where the old coil ends is a change in cross-sectional thickness, and that may cause a fatigue point of the spring. I'm going to try it. I did order a new set of lowering springs to see if they're any taller. I just haven't put them in yet. Thick, heavy coat of blue paint to keep it from rusting, and you're probably going, oh my gosh, this is going to have runs all over the place. Yeah, but it's a coil spring up at the hat. Nobody cares, except you, apparently. Once the paint's dried enough, I place the whole thing together, and because it's taller, I just need to squeeze it together a little bit more. And about now, I started having a concern about the change in cross-sectional thickness of the spring, and then I ordered new springs. Which I may put in. I'm trying to wrestle with that. I always second guess the stuff I do because some of this is not good. You probably should not do this. Note to the viewer, don't do this. Meanwhile, we're putting it all back together. Once it's set up, we're going to do a wheel alignment, which in this car is basically set the toe and let it go. And we should check and see if this thing is the height we want it to be. There we are, down and out.
Back in the house garage, how did we do? Well, my Hyundai is still 12.5 inches, barring a little bit of an inaccuracy going around the wider wheel. My wife's is now 12 9/16. So that's pretty good. I am technically lower than hers, but not by much. But there we are. This should no longer be scraping freaking everything under the fender wells, bottoming out on the bump stops, and scraping the chin spoiler, because we're just at a little bit more higher off the ground. And I don't have lowrider envy, so I think it's a win. As always, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you again.